Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to English for Devs, the podcast where we help developers not just write better code, but speak the language of the teams they work on. I'm your host, and today we're diving into something that nobody really teaches you in a bootcamp or a CS degree, but that will absolutely define your first weeks at a new job. We're talking about onboarding language, the vocabulary, the phrases, the little rituals of communication that senior devs use every single day, and that junior developers are just expected to know, without anyone actually explaining them. So if you've ever sat in a stand-up meeting nodding like you understood everything, while internally panicking because someone mentioned blockers and bandwidth in the same sentence, and you had no idea what to do with that, this episode is for you. Let's get into it. Alright, let's set the scene. It's your first week at a new company. You've passed the technical interviews, you've set up your dev environment, you've had the awkward introduce yourself to the whole company on Slack moment, and now it's 9:57 a.m. on a Monday, and someone sends a message in the team channel. Daily sync in 3 minutes, don't forget to update your tickets. And you think, what's a sync? What tickets? Do I talk? What do I say? Deep breath. We're going to walk through this together. Let's start with the daily stand-up, or as some teams call it, the daily sync, the daily scrum, or just the daily. Here's what it is. A short meeting, usually 15 minutes max, where every member of the team answers 3 core questions. 1. What did I work on yesterday? 2. What am I working on today? 3. Do I have any blockers? Now, the format is simple, but the language inside it, that's where junior devs often struggle. So let's break down each of those 3 questions, and the vocabulary that goes with them. Question 1. What did I work on yesterday? This sounds easy, right? You just say what you did, but how you say it matters a lot. Notice that professionals almost never say, I was trying to fix a bug. Instead, they say, I worked on the login bug. I narrowed it down to a race condition in the auth middleware. I made progress on the payment API integration. I've got the post request working, now I'm handling errors. I wrapped up the UI changes for the dashboard component and opened a PR. You're telling a story of progress, even if progress was slow. You're using action verbs, worked on, narrowed down, wrapped up, opened. And you're being specific but brief. A great phrase to remember here is, I made progress on. It's honest, it's professional, and it works even when you didn't fully finish something. Question 2. What am I working on today? Again, sounds simple. But here's where a new term shows up a lot: sprint goals. A sprint, for those unfamiliar, is a fixed period of time, usually 1 or 2 weeks, during which the team commits to completing a specific set of tasks. It's part of the Agile methodology. And each sprint has goals, the outcomes the team is aiming for by the end of that period. When you answer, what am I working on today, it's good practice to tie your work to the sprint goal. Instead of just saying, I'm fixing a bug, you might say, today I'm finishing the error handling for the checkout flow, which should help us hit our sprint goal of having the full payment integration ready by Thursday. See the difference? You're not just reporting tasks, you're connecting your work to the bigger picture. That's the kind of answer that makes senior engineers nod with approval. Other common phrases for this part of the stand-up. I'm picking up the ticket for, I'm going to continue working on, my focus today is, I plan to finish X and then move on to Y. Question 3. Do I have any blockers? Okay, blockers. This is one of the most important words in your day-to-day vocabulary, and it's often the one junior devs are most afraid to use. A blocker is anything that is preventing you from making progress on your work. It could be a technical issue you can't solve alone, waiting for someone else to review your code, not having access to a system or credential you need, a design decision that hasn't been made yet, an API that's broken in the staging environment. Here's the cultural thing that nobody tells you. Raising a blocker is not a sign of weakness. It's actually expected. The whole point of the stand-up is to surface blockers early, so the team can help remove them fast. What you should not do is stay silent about a blocker for 2 days and then say, yeah, I couldn't make progress this week. That's the thing that actually frustrates senior developers. So, how do you raise a blocker professionally? Use these templates. I'm blocked on X. I need access to the staging database and I'm not sure who to ask. I have a blocker. I'm waiting on a PR review from the back-end team before I can continue. I might be running into a blocker with the third-party API. The documentation isn't clear, and I want to flag it before it becomes an issue. Notice that last one. Flag it before it becomes an issue. That phrase is gold. It shows proactivity. It tells your team, I'm paying attention, I'm thinking ahead, I'm not going to let this silently derail me. Now let's talk about a word that confuses almost everyone when they first hear it used in a work context: bandwidth. In tech, bandwidth literally refers to data transfer capacity. You know it from networking. But in team communication, bandwidth means personal capacity, time, mental availability. When someone says, I don't have bandwidth for that right now, they mean, I'm too busy, I can't take on more work. When a manager asks, does anyone have bandwidth to help onboard the new hire? They're asking, does anyone have time and mental space to do this extra task? Here are some real examples of how it sounds in meetings. I'd love to help, but my bandwidth is pretty tight this sprint. Can you check your bandwidth before we assign this to you? I have some bandwidth Thursday afternoon if you want to pair on that. Using bandwidth correctly signals that you understand how the team talks about workload, and it helps you set honest expectations without sounding like you're making excuses. Let's keep going with more essential terms. I want to give you a quick-fire round of vocabulary you will hear in your first few weeks, with clear definitions and example sentences. Capacity. Similar to bandwidth, but often used at the team level. We need to check our capacity before committing to this feature in the next sprint. Velocity. How much work a team completes in a given sprint, measured in story points or tasks. Our velocity has increased since we switched to 2-week sprints. Story points. A unit teams use to estimate the effort and complexity of a task. Not hours, effort. This ticket is probably a 3 or a 5. It's not huge, but there's some unknown risk. Ticket or issue. A task in your project management tool, Jira, Linear, GitHub Issues, Trello. Can you grab a ticket from the backlog and get started on the styling fixes? Backlog. The full list of tasks and features that haven't been worked on yet. Think of it as the team's to-do list. That feature request is in the backlog. We'll probably pick it up next quarter. PR. Pull request. A request to merge your code changes into the main branch, also called an MR, merge request, in GitLab. I just opened a PR. Could someone take a look when they have a moment? LGTM. Looks good to me. The most beautiful 4 letters in the world of code review. LGTM. Nice work on the error handling. Technical debt. Code that works now but was written in a way that will cause problems or slow things down later. We shipped it fast, but there's some technical debt we'll need to clean up. Out of scope. Not part of the current plan or sprint. Adding dark mode would be cool, but it's out of scope for this release. Sync, or to sync. To align, share updates, get on the same page. Let's sync before the end of day to make sure we're aligned on the API contract. Okay, catching your breath? Good. Let's move into something a little more nuanced. The pragmatic layer of all this communication. Here's something that took me a long time to understand. In professional environments, what you say and how you say it carry equal weight. Let me give you 2 versions of the same stand-up update, and tell me which one feels better. Version A. Yesterday I was working on the login thing. I didn't finish it. Today I'll keep doing it. No blockers. Version B. Yesterday I continued working on the authentication flow. I got the JWT token validation in place, but I ran into some issues with token expiry edge cases. Today I'm focusing on resolving those and writing unit tests. No blockers yet, but if the edge cases get complicated, I may need to sync with the back-end team. Both are technically honest, but version B sounds like a professional. It shows awareness, clarity, and forward thinking. The difference comes down to a few habits. 1. Use specific technical language. Don't say the login thing. Say the authentication flow or the JWT implementation. Specificity builds credibility. 2. Show your reasoning. Don't just say what you did, briefly say why or what it means. I got X in place but ran into Y is a complete story in 1 sentence. 3. Signal ahead. Phrases like, if X happens, I may need to, or I want to flag that, show that you're thinking proactively, not just reacting. 4. Control your qualifiers. Words like, I guess, kind of, sort of, weaken your message. Replace them with confident, calm language. You don't have to be aggressive, just clear. Let's talk about one more scenario, the async update. Not every team does live daily stand-ups. A lot of teams, especially remote or distributed ones, use asynchronous updates. You write your update in Slack, a thread, or a tool like Geekbot or Stand.uply. The good news, the same 3 questions apply. But now you're writing, not speaking, and written communication has its own rules. Here's a solid async stand-up template. Yesterday, worked on, task name, and brief update on progress and any key outcome. Today, focused on, task name, goal is to, specific milestone. Blockers, none, or I'm waiting on X, or I need help with Y, tagging at person. Clean, scannable, respectful of your teammates' time. That's the goal. And one pro tip for async communication, use threads. If you have a question or blocker that affects one specific person, respond in the thread or tag them directly. Keeping conversations organized in threads is a small thing that senior devs notice and appreciate. We're coming up on time, so let me give you the key takeaways from today's episode. 1. The daily stand-up is a 15-minute ritual built around 3 questions: what you did, what you're doing, and whether you're blocked. Know the format and own it. 2. Blockers are not failures. Raising a blocker early and clearly is what good engineers do. Use the phrase, "I'm blocked on X," with confidence. 3. Bandwidth means your personal capacity. Use it. It's a professional, respectful way to communicate your workload. 4. Connect your daily work to sprint goals. It shows awareness and makes you sound like someone who gets the big picture. 5. The how matters as much as the what. Specific language, forward-thinking phrases, and confident delivery are what separate a junior who just reports tasks from one who communicates like a professional. That's it for today's episode of English for Devs. If this was useful, share it with a friend who's just starting out, because nobody should have to figure this out alone on their first week at a job. Next episode, we're getting into code review language, how to give and receive feedback on your code without it feeling like a personal attack. That one's going to be good. Until then, keep shipping, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next sync.